Okay, can you hear me? Welcome. Let me know if you can hear me here. We are in week 2. I think I'm all unmuted here. How's it going today? Welcome, welcome. Good, awesome. Welcome to week 2. You guys finished this first week, and we're starting our lectures a little late this week, but hopefully you guys will get going on your projects after possible clarification in the lectures this week. Good, awesome. What did you guys think of the projects or the project that you worked on last week with the GIF? A lot of you guys did a great job. It was really interesting to see what you did with a lot of those videos that were given to you guys. It was fun. Yeah, I had some really cool things. I had some people doing the eyes and the ears of the dog, and pretty interesting. And you know, when you see those GIFs now, you can say, hey, I know how to create that in Photoshop. So it's kind of neat to know the process. Did you guys have any questions from what you've so far have went over in week 1? You guys also had a quiz as well for the assessment. And as we're going into this week, you guys need to have your discussion initial post posted by tonight before midnight. So we'll kind of go over that in a second here. All right, I'm going to assume that you guys don't have any questions there. Thomas, I'm sorry I missed you this weekend. It was kind of a crazy weekend, but it looked like you had some help with the Student Success Center.
Yes, ma'am, I did. It was just my biggest problem when it comes to any type of Photoshop work is the masking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can talk to you more about that after the lecture.
Okay. Yeah, it can get kind of complicated, especially with what we just went over in week 1. A lot of the times, that is very new to a lot of you guys too. So it's just kind of learning the process and going through the steps. But this week will be kind of interesting. You guys will be doing a fun project. So let's go ahead and go forward here into what we will be discovering in week 2. And let me switch into Canvas mode here so that, you know, maybe we can see the guidelines a little easier here. So if you go to week 2, midweek here, some of the learning objectives that we'll be going over within the project and also the quiz that we're going to be taking this week. You guys need to identify which masking technique would be appropriate for separating a given subject from its background. There's different techniques and one that's best for each purpose. You're going to identify and apply appropriate editing techniques to adjust, restore, retouch, or enhance a photograph. Utilize 6 blending modes, and we'll be talking about that today for recoloring and compositing. Identify the most efficient selection tool for various photo subjects. And we kind of went over that in week 1 as well. So a lot of these will be kind of crossover into the weeks here as we go forward. Identify 3 common mistakes making selections to create masks. Identify and apply the most appropriate blending mode for colorizing part of a photo. Define the use of non-destructive editing techniques to preserve original content. Identify the 4 main masking tools for creating a silhouette of a subject, and utilize quick mask to refine an alpha channel. So this week we basically learn about the different ways to make selections and how we can use these selections in conjunction with adjustment layers and blending modes to colorize images. A very useful skill for many entry-level graphic design jobs. We will also discuss the process of non-destructive photo editing and cover techniques and processes to make your editing as efficient as possible. Go ahead and check out this video here, just a quick video when you can. Just talks about it shows some awesome recolored historical photos that were made using the coloring techniques we will learn this week. It's only like a minute, so you guys can check that out. So some things that we're going to cover and things that you need to keep in mind, because we are going to be not only doing a project, but also for this week you guys will be doing a quiz. Don't forget to go into your course media, and I didn't realize this until I actually went in here that I posted the same link into announcements in week 2, which is kind of cool. So I posted it to announcements yesterday, and that just goes over the different blending modes, and we'll be talking about that today. So anyway, the link that I posted in announcements is actually this link here as well. So definitely check that out. We're going to be going over how to create a contact sheet too. So I'll do a demo of that after we're done doing a demo for your assignment too. But don't forget, you know, these are required, and you have some great supportive videos in here with lynda.com. You know, they're great supportive recordings to listen to if you're not quite getting something and I didn't cover in the lecture. It's a great supportive material there for you guys. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and let me go back to my slides here because there are a couple of things that I wanted to go over. So just a few things that I noticed in discussion 1, some issues that may have sprung up with some of your initial posts and kind of your discussions and where they went. So I saw some issues with photo compositing versus photo retouching, and then photo retouching and photo compositing. So the differences between the two, I just wanted to go over. So photo compositing is different than retouching. Photo compositing is whenever you're taking a whole bunch of images, or more than one, I should say, and composing it into one image. So you're taking, here for example, you're doing, you know, 4 images into one. You're putting those into one image. So that's called a photo composite. When you retouch, a photo retouch is different than photo compositing. You're just kind of taking that image itself and just retouching it to enhance it or change it in some manner. So that's kind of the differences between the two. So when you're talking about those two terminologies, the photo retouching and compositing is 2 separate things. Okay, but you guys did, most of you guys did a great job with the discussion 2. I just wanted to kind of go over a few things with that terminology, so we're not confused. All right, a lot of you guys have, you know, I've been reading through some of your discussion posts, and it's great to see you guys getting the conversation started early, especially because we're doing this lecture a little late. So go ahead and get your initial post for discussion 2, which talks about non-destructive editing. And go ahead and read through this very important information here. It talks about the reasons why you need to edit, you know, with a non-destructive way to your image so that you can go back and change it in the smart way to work. Because you'll find yourself, and I know I found myself in the work environment where you're not doing it the correct way, and then you spend more time fixing it than editing it. And you know, that's not good. And believe me, I've been there. I've been in that position before, and you kind of learn quick, you know, time is money, especially when you work in an ad agency, and time is actually money because you're logging in those hours minute by minute for billing purposes. So you really want to make sure you're working smart so you're not wasting time, not just only for your client, but your time as well. And, you know, and when you're doing Photoshop work, definitely want to make sure you're doing it in a way that, you know, it's going to save you time when you edit your images. All right, so read through the intro part, the background. I'll kind of give you a little bit of a gist of what we're going to be talking about for discussion 2. When you are employed in the industry as a graphic designer, you may be asked to retouch images of models who are advertising your client's products. Models aren't just used in fashion and cosmetic advertisements. Models are featured in advertisements for beverages, travel, credit cards, insurance, and banking, etc. So since your job as a graphic designer is to make your advertisements as effective as possible, how would you go about considering the ethical ramifications of too much retouching? For instance, if you're making an advertisement for a credit card, how would you determine the point at which it became wrong to make the model in that credit card advertisement look completely different from how he might look in real life. So for instance, 20 pounds thinner with straight teeth and a nice six-pack would be an example of that. At what point might you refuse to retouch a photo in the way your client wants it retouched? Discuss whether or not it is a graphic designer's place to consider the ethics of retouching and how retouching might impact consumers and society as a whole. So for your citation, you might use articles that show examples of retouching, editing, as well as the ethical ramifications of Photoshop and advertisements. You can also find articles from experts that suggest what a proper design workflow should be. So a very interesting debate for sure. I actually did a thesis on this as a graduate student at SCAD. What my thesis paper was about was the objectification of women. And that basically talked about objectifying women, even men, where you're making them look like an object rather than a human being. For purposes of advertisements, and how that affects our culture and society as a whole. And it's definitely a debate that can be talked about for a long, long, long time, forever probably. But what's the line that we, as designers, we need to kind of make sure we're not crossing if, obviously that's something that you want to keep your own ethical standards and professional practice in place. What power do we have? What are the tools that we have to be able to stand up for ourselves? And I think that's really kind of an important thing to know and to learn as a designer. I didn't know until I went through my graduate studies and actually did the paper of what my tools that I had to, I want to say stand up to a client, but you know what I mean, have something to back up the reasoning why you might put your foot down in a case where you think maybe this might be harmful to as a message to society. And I'm talking about, I had facts in there of statistical information of like kindergartners in the US having, 85% of them are on diets, and linking that to a debate of whether or not that has something to do with, advertising and the way that we depict women and, how we're supposed to look in the perfect eye and advertising, how that affects a society. And that's something that can be debated. I'm not saying that that's, all true, but that's kind of the facts in regards to what was added into my paper. And it really, it can affect a culture. It definitely does in some way. So you might want to talk about that. You might want to bring in facts like that, how you believe that might affect culture today. In announcements too, I provided, and hopefully you guys saw this, and this is a key part of the information here. I don't know if you guys looked at the AIGA Standards of Professional Practice before. I know it sounds kind of boring, but if you belong to AIGA, this is definitely a great thing to take a look at. And these are the standards of professional practice as a graphic designer. Now, they have all kinds of other resources on here, but what's great about this is if you are a part of AIGA, you can actually be part of the directory where you actually have a signature saying, what your standards are as a designer. And what's nice about that is if you ever find yourself in a position where a client, say, or somebody you're working for, asks you to do something that you believe is detrimental to society or to somebody out there that's going to get that message, and you're putting your name on it, you can actually use this as a tool to say, hey, I have standards, I am part of the AIJ Standards of Professional Practice. I have standards that I have to uphold, and I feel like this is kind of, this could definitely be something that would be detrimental to somebody that, I'm kind of crossing the line, and, hey, this is what I signed. I have a responsibility as a designer. So this actually goes into our responsibility to clients and then also other designers, as well as the public. So, here it says the designer's responsibility to the public. A professional designer shall avoid projects that will result in harm to the public. So you can refer the client to that, and that could be your tool to, kind of getting the message across that, you don't really want to be a part of that. And don't forget, your name is going to be on this work. You're going to show your work in a portfolio, so you want to make sure you're choosing projects that you're comfortable with. I mean, some people may not care about that, so it's completely up to you and how you want to kind of put yourself out there as well. But here's another one, 6.2. A professional designer shall communicate the truth in all situations and at all times. His or her work shall not make false claims nor knowingly misinform. A professional designer shall represent messages in a clear manner in all forms of communication design and avoid false, misleading, and deceptive promotion. A professional designer shall respect the dignity of all audiences and shall value individual differences, even as they avoid depicting or stereotyping people or groups of people in a negative or dehumanizing way. A professional designer shall strive to be sensitive to cultural values and beliefs and engages in fair and balanced communication design that fosters and encourages mutual understanding. And it goes on and on about, society and the environment. But this is great because you can be a part of this. It's also great to be a part of AIGA, even as a student, and then afterwards. But this is, a great tool to be able to have in your arsenal if you were ever in that position where a client is asking you to do something that you don't feel comfortable with. And I'm talking about, what you think that is crossing the line. A lot of you guys are, posting some great, and I'll show you here, for example, some great examples of a before and after. What is this telling our culture? I mean, this is something that, obviously there are ads out there that are showing images that are way off what they actually are in real life. And what is that saying? Can we actually strive to be that perfect? Here's some other examples that you guys are going through here and showing in your oh, this is a great campaign. I think who posted this one? Tabitha posted this one. I don't know if Tabitha is with us here. Let me see her. No, she's not. If you guys ever get the chance to take a look at this campaign, and the Perfect Body campaign, and also the Dove campaign is also another one that's great, where it's actually showing you the real women for their brand and their products, what they're trying to sell. Let's see, I think it's, what is it, the Dove? Let me look it up here. The Dove campaign. I forget what it's called, but it's great. Dove campaign. So it's a great, I think more companies are going towards this too, kind of giving that. And I don't know if this is going to show. Let me see if I can go back here. More companies are getting into this where, you're showing real beauty instead of the fake stuff here. So here's an example of one of their campaigns. It's embracing, the idea of, real people in their ads, which is definitely hard to come by nowadays. So, oops, let me go back to my discussion here. All right, so yeah, you can talk about, like I said, since your job as graphic designers to make ads, how would you go about considering the ethical ramifications of too much retouching? Okay, how would you go about that? And talk about that in your own words. At what point might you refuse to retouch a photo in a way your client wants it retouched? Discuss whether or not it is a graphic designer's place to consider the ethics of retouching and how retouching might impact consumers and society as a whole. I gave you a great resource to kind of pull into your discussion there. So take advantage of that. You might want to pull that in as a citation, but really kind of, try to give each other different perspectives when you're responding to your fellow peers as well. Different ways to think about things. All right, any questions about that? Pretty straightforward.
I actually do.
Okay.
I don't know exactly if this would be even remotely right to the conversation, but what about, because it seems just with certain pictures. Is there any way to talk about self-esteem or women's self-esteem in this?
Oh yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Because even myself, don't, I have self-esteem, but I don't have encouragement. Um, and I know that with people, and this is probably what I'm going to be discussing, but just to see if this is okay, because that's why we have so many women now that are anorexic or try to, what's the word? When they try to put their finger down their throat to try to, literally make themselves sick just to lose weight.
Right. They have like that.
That's the society that we're heading towards, and it's not right. It's all about pushing to look like a model and not and making men and women feel like they're not going, like they're attacking the self-esteem of both males and females.
Right, because there's an image out there that nobody can achieve because it's not real. So they're basing it their selves off of an image in advertising that's put out there that's not real because it's Photoshop. So you can definitely, I would definitely bring up that debate, and it can work for women and men. Bring in the facts about that and talk about that. That would be perfect.
Well, I also know that some people just don't have the bone structure to look like that either.
Exactly.
Whether it's
I don't think anybody
Photoshop or
can
not.
really live up to that. Nobody can live up to that because it's not real what's being put out there. If it's Photoshop.
Well, see, I was wanting, and this just to tell you how I'm like pushing almost 250 just in weight, and that's purely nothing but fat. And Tatum Taylor, which is the one that played in 22 Jump Street and everything, I don't have the bone structure to even have his muscle statue. So it's not even, it's like even comparing yourself to real people too. Like I know people that have literally wanted to look like, some guys wanted to look like Justin Bieber, but they don't have the bone structure to look like that, or they compare themselves to, I don't know, let's just say Britney Spears, but some women just don't have the bone structure for that.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. And that's where a lot of people can look at advertising and commercials and well, famous people and try to live up to that image. And it's when you run into issues of self-esteem, and it could definitely cause like you said, eating disorders, making yourself not, be happy with yourself.
Or it could even push you to go to the gym and push you to,
Right.
it could even attack you financially.
Right. And it could definitely inspire you. Depending on the type of person that you are, it could inspire you to become a better person, or it could backfire and go the other direction. So it really depends on how you.
And when you were discussing that, that's why I wanted to. That's why I wanted to see if it was okay, because when I was thinking about comparison and this that, it's like, why don't just talk about self-esteem and how people use Photoshop
Right.
to make these fake. Because I was even going to bring in social media into all of it and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key to this is just keeping it to, how do ads that are over photoshopped and over revised that make it look like, a perfect person. How do you believe that affects culture and society?
What is the word mark for this?
I'm sorry?
Just out of curiosity.
What's that?
The word mark, I know it's in there in the discussion somewhere exactly how many words we're supposed to type.
Oh, I think up to, let's see, 200 plus words. So you can go over if you.
Okay, because I have a feeling that it's going to be like hitting like at least 300, if not close to it.
Well, go for it. Yeah, I mean, if this is like a hot button debate, definitely go for it. This is your chance to get it all out.
Okay.
Yep, and put your own perspective in there. Like you said, in your own words. How does that make you feel? Like when you see
Well,
ads
it's not
like that,
even
when you
me. It's even
see, stuff like that out there that
well,
is
it's not
real.
even me. It's even some people that I've know personally in my own life that looks down on themselves.
Right, exactly. Yep. And you see it happen, you see it being affecting those people, and definitely talk about that. And then talk about how you believe designers have, if you believe that they have the power to change that, maybe even bring up what your suggestion would be. Maybe it's creating an awareness campaign to all other designers that, you have more power than you think. You can say no to clients who are trying to make you create these ads that are not very truthful. So think about how not only the bad side of it possibly, but also how you can change it as a designer.
Right.
Good job. All right, so I'll be looking forward to everybody's viewpoints on here. It should be interesting, and I think this will definitely be an eye-opening discussion for you guys as far as knowing what your power is, because designers hold a lot of power. You guys, or when you go out there, you're going to be influencing. Just think about how you're going to be persuading people to think in a certain way. Try to make them buy a product or an idea. So you have that power, and just know that just because you have a job doesn't mean necessarily that you have to do things that you're uncomfortable with, if it has to do with harming public or society and your beliefs. Okay. All right. So that'll be definitely very interesting to see kind of all of your different perspectives there. All right, so we went over your week 2 discussion. Just make sure you're hitting upon all of the reply requirements, like we just talked about, the 200 plus words, 2 APA citations, reference, as well as 2 follow-up posts of 50 plus words. Don't forget to kind of, poke holes in each other's theories in a nice, respectful way. If you see somebody seeing one thing one way, you might want to bring up a new perspective. It's kind of the way to go and open up people's minds here. All right, so we talked about compositing. As we go forward here, actually, why don't we take a 5-minute break before we get into this? Because I'm going to get right into your assignment 2, but I kind of think we need maybe a little bit of a break here, just a quick break, get our minds back onto it, and then we're going to go through your demo, kind of go through your assignment 2 and what you guys are going to be expected to do here. So give me 5 minutes, and then we'll start that as we go forward. Okay, it looks like 5 minutes is over here. All right, so what we're going to be doing, we went last week, we went over some compositing selection tools. We went over quick mask, pen tool, custom shape tool, and all of that. So we are going to be going over your assignment 2 here. Let me stop sharing my slides here. I think you guys will definitely like this actual assignment here. All of these are very, I think, fun to do once you get the process done. So I'm going to go to your assignment 2. Let's see what we got going on here. All right, I'm going to read through this because I think, here, let me stop sharing here. There we go. Okay. This is all part of what we're going to be doing here, so I'm going to read through this. So what we're basically going to be doing is recoloring a subject. All right, so if you've ever done any online shopping, you've probably seen websites that allow you to click on a color swatch and see what that product looks like in a different color. This is an example. So if you click on this link here, David's Bridal, you should be able to look at this dress and click on any of these particular colors here. Let's pick blue. Let's see how it's kind of changing colors. Whoops, lots of little pop-ups here. So you can see it kind of changing colors. So what we're going to be doing is the same thing where we're going to be just changing the color of the dress within this assignment. See how you can view the dress in a variety of different colors instead of taking 30 different photos of 30 different color dresses. Most website designers just use one photo of the product and then a Photoshop artist creates a selection, separating the subject from its background and recolors that product 30 times, showing 30 different color variations. In order to do this type of work, a Photoshop artist must have very accurate and efficient selecting and masking skills to separate a given subject from its background. Making a good selection prior to separating the subject from its background is an essential part of the process. In week's 1 discussion, we learned how to make good selections utilizing the various methods Photoshop has to offer. Review these techniques and master them so when you're hired as an entry-level graphic designer, you will be able to quickly, efficiently, and accurately select a variety of subjects. After the selection is made, the product can then be colored using either the solid color adjustment layer on the color blending mode or using the hue saturation adjustment layer with the colorizing setting selected. 3 blending modes that are commonly used for recoloring and compositing are color, so they're overlays, color over an image, while allowing its values to show through, often the easiest way to recolor something in a way that looks natural. You have, and these are blending modes, I'll show you where those are at. Soft light, a good blending mode for painting light on a subject, a fantastic mode for painting the subject to match a background. And then color burn increases the saturation of the color in the midtones. Okay. So prompt, for this assignment, you will be using the provided photo of a model wearing a dress and recolor that dress 4 different ways. So you're going to choose one dress image and then have 4 different colors in that swatch group that you choose. The recolored dress must precisely match the provided color swatches. So accurate selections and masks are essential in this project. Decide whether you intend to use the quick mask, pen tool, color range selector, or channel pool to make your selection. Save the colors of the provided swatches in Photoshop swatches so you can keep those colors handy. Okay, so you can choose any of the following swatch groups. Each group has 4 swatches you'll need to match your dress to. So group 1 is on this vertical horizontal line, 2, 3, 4. So you can download all of them if you want and then decide. What I kind of did was I just downloaded all of them and then I saved them as JPEGs. I just put a .jpg at the end so that they would open up in Photoshop. The dresses, I did notice that dress number 2 is not loading. Let's see if it's still not doing it. Yeah. So dress number 2 is not available, but for some reason that link needs to be fixed. But dress 1, dress 3, and dress 4 are available for your choosing. So you can go ahead and download those and then, kind of decide which one you want to go with. So you just have to choose one out of the 4. Just dress number 2 is not working, the link. You will mask out only the dress, so you will be able to apply various blending modes to match each of your swatches. Tip: once masked, duplicate the dress onto 4 separate artboards so you can easily recolor each dress on its own artboard. Then you're going to create JPEGs of each board to make the contact sheet. Name them as follows. So you can name each of these as follows. Create a contact sheet of all 4 recolored dresses and include the original for a total of 5 dresses. This is a link that we're going to be looking at to, if you need a reminder on how to create a contact sheet. It's pretty easy, but we'll go over that as well. Your contact sheet should have 3 rows and 3 columns. I would say it's just about 8 by 10. I would just do like an 8 by 10 default size for that. It doesn't specify what the size of the contact sheet is, but 8.5 by 11 or 8 by 10 is fine. Save and back up your native file as such. So you can save that, but do not submit it. Don't submit your PSD file. You're going to export it as a JPEG, adjusting the settings in the file export drop-down menu to optimize your JPEG to less than 1 megabyte. Okay, we'll go through that. Name your contact sheet, as such. Submit your JPEG for grading. And this is just kind of your submission instructions. So your name of your file is the JPEG, and then submit a contact sheet of also the 5 dresses as a single JPEG for grading. Do not submit your PSD file, however, save them for future edits or if your instructor needs to see how you did your masking. The reason being is just because they're going to be really big files because you're going to be doing more than 1 image adjustment on each. So you're going to have a layered PSD file, and those are usually really, really big files because of that. All right, I know you probably have a lot of questions, but we're going to go through this. I'm going to show you a method that you can try to start this too. There's different ways that you can do it. Like, for instance, they're kind of telling you one way here. After the selection you're making, you can then be colored. The product then can be colored using either the solid color adjustment layer on the color blending mode or using the hue saturation adjustment layer with the colorize setting selected. I'm going to show you a method that you definitely can try as well. Let me open up the image here and then we'll go forward. All right, so I just chose, and give me 1 minute here, I'll grab that image. And you have other choices, but I just chose to do this one here. Let me reset my essentials here so that I have a clean panel area. Before I even open the dress, what I'm going to do is actually, let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up that swatch, contact swatch that I want to do. So I just saved the content swatches as a JPEG on my desktop when I downloaded them, and then I opened them up. I did a file open in Photoshop. And then what I do is I'll just take the eyedropper tool and just do a sample of each. And when I click on that red first swatch, I double click in the fill, and then I can add 2 swatches and then name it. And then click OK, and they'll add it to your swatch libraries. I did the same thing here, double click, and so on and so forth. So I did it for all 4 of these, although this looks a little different on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I don't think this blue one's supposed to be here. Let me trash that one. Okay. So if I were to go with this color swatch group, these are the 4 colors that I would be doing. So once I kind of add it to my library, now I can go File, Open. I don't have to save that. I just have to pull those colors into my library. And now do a file open. I'm going to open up that image that I just had open of the woman in the dress. So choose the dress that you want to do. This is one of the 4, or actually one of the 3. Let me show you the other 3 so you guys can see your choices here. Excuse me. So this is dress number 4, and this is dress number 3. Dress number 2 is not available. I think it's a wedding dress or something like that. All right. So, excuse me, guys. Jeez. The first thing that you want to do is just unlock your layer. So go to your layers panel. If you don't see it, go up to window and make sure layers is checked. Double click on the background, click OK. You can rename it if you want. I'm just gonna, actually, let me just name this original maybe. Okay. Now there's different ways that you can do this. So in the actual instructions, it talks about making your selection and then either using the selection of the product, so it would be the dress, and using either the solid color adjustment layer on the color blending mode. So making the selection is completely up to you and how you want to go about this. And this is just going to be her dress. So, you know, you have different selections up here. We talked about selection tools. You have your lasso tools. You have your magic wand tools that you can definitely try to select it. Well, I'm going to show you a method that you can try that I think is definitely helpful here. So with that being said, I'm going to go up to my menu bar, and I know you can't see my menu bar here because I'm not showing the top of my menu bar, but you would just go up to select on your menu bar and choose color range. So you might not see select, but you do see color range here. So select and color range. Now this is going to bring up this nice little panel here that you have your eyedropper tools here. On the bottom part, the eyedropper tool is a great way to sample a part of the image. And when I click in there, it's kind of resetting whatever pixel I'm choosing. It's choosing the pixels in this little X-ray. I call it an X-ray. It's choosing that tone in the pixels that I'm clicking on. Now, if I wanted to add more to that, say pixels that might be in that same range, I'm going to click on the add the plus sign eyedropper tool, and I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to click into this image. And as I'm clicking on different areas of the image, so darker and lighter areas of the image, it's, as you can see, it's getting brighter and brighter because it's adding more to that. So I'm affecting more of the image than what was previously selected. Okay, just make sure you're not getting too much of the background. If you want to reset it, just go back to your original eyedropper tool and just click in it one time. The fuzziness, and we'll talk about this as I'm showing you the example here. This is just giving you kind of the spread of the selection that you're making. So whenever I'm changing the color here, I'll show you how this kind of plays a part. The range, you want to have that up to 100%. That's just kind of the pixel color range that's being added in here. Now just be aware some of the other areas that are similar to her color of her dress may be chosen, like her lips here. So if I click OK, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So when I click OK, that's when your selection is made. So you can see these little marching ants kind of selection being added here. You can see in her lips. We don't want her lips being added, so I'm going to go over here to my toolbox and choose the Edit in Quick Mask mode. And this is going to give me what is in red is not selected. What is not in red, like for instance her dress, is selected. So all I need to do is take my brush tool and brush over parts that I don't. As long as my fill is black, I can brush over the parts that I don't want affected here, like her lips, for instance. Okay, so then I go back to the Edit Quick Mask mode. You can see her lips aren't included in that. I don't want her lips to change colors. That's kind of why I'm doing that. Okay, now this is one technique that you can try. Oops, sorry, I just clicked out of here. So now, once you have that selected, you're going to click OK, like I just did, and then you're going to hold down the Alt Option key. If you're on a Mac, you would hold down the Option key, and that is right next to your Command key. And then what you're going to do is click on the Adjustment layer, the New Fill. So right down here in your layer panel, it looks kind of like a half cookie. It's right next to your mask and right next to your Create a New Group. So you're going to hold down the Alt key and click right on top of that, and you're going to choose Hue and Saturation. Excuse me. And click OK. Now when that appears, pull this over to the side. Now what we can do is just shift these sliders so you can see what's changing here. So you can change the hue of the dress just by selecting, the different hue here, and get it as close as you can to the swatch that we have. Now the hue is different than the saturation. Saturation can be dialed down as well or up, depending on the color that you're trying to achieve. So you can play around with that, as well as the lightness and the darkness. Now, I wanted to show you something because, we got this particular color that we're trying to get here. The fuzziness. So if I go back to, and I'm going to pull this back over to your hue saturation mask, and I click over top of that little cookie. I say cookie. I'm sorry, the the mask part. If you dial up the feather, watch what happens if you dial up the feather. If you go right on so that the feather is a little bit larger, you can see how it's affecting the color of the dress. So it's kind of feathering it out based on kind of what you have going on there. It's kind of like, almost like making a gradient of the color that's underneath it. That makes sense. Now, you can play around with your blend modes too. If you wanted to do, obviously the overlay is going to show you what's underneath there, so that might not be something that you want to do, but you can definitely go through here and let's see, what would be, maybe even lighten would be a good one. Let's see what it looked like before. It's not much of a difference there. The other one is color. So if you wanted to change the color, you could change it to the color that is kind of like taking that color which is in the swatch here. We're kind of, it's on the gray mode because we're on the mask here, but I have to do that a little bit differently. But you can get it to the point where you think it looks, kind of like the color that's in that swatch for the most part. I'm going to dial down the opacity here and get rid of this color. Now there's still some pink being shown here. I need to kind of select that part. That's the part that's not selected, within this. This is the hardest dress, I think, because there's so many different details in there. If you needed to go back and do the original selection, you definitely can do that. You just need to go back and, oops. You would just have to delete this out here. And then make your shift and add into that. So it would be more of like this area here that needs to be selected. And that's a non-destructive way to do it because you're putting the you are adding the layer mask on there. So you can always change it. You're not taking away from the original. So this is a little bit better here. All right, and when that's to the point where you think that looks good, now all you need to do is make a duplicate of this top layer here. And how you would do that is make sure it's selected, go up on the upper right-hand corner of your layers panel and say duplicate layer. Now, you can save these layers. It's up to you what you want to name them. But once you duplicate it, just hide the one below it so that you can go in and change the property of this one. So you can kind of whoop, change the hue, kind of look at all the different kind of neat options here. All right. And then when that's done, all you have to do is duplicate that layer again, duplicate layer, and hide the one underneath it. Okay. And then duplicate it again. We want it to get like red here. Okay. Any questions about that so far? Okay. Put my chat box up here so I can see what you're doing. All right. When you're ready to save out, so say you have all of these. So you have the red one, you have the teal one, you have the dark teal one, and then you have the lighter. And you can always go back and change this if you want to kind of make it brighter. You can change certain things about it. You can just double click on that. Okay, so when it's ready to save out, this is just save your file as. The name of the file should be, and let me go back to the instructions here. Assignment 2, first and last name. Put this on my desktop. Save it as a PSD file, but you're not going to submit this file. So now you're going to export as, and it tells you what you should name this as, swatch 1. So I'll just copy, paste this in here. So you're going to go and highlight the one example for the first swatch and go up to File, Save As, and you're going to name it JPEG. You're going to name it as such, first and last name. And this is all in your description. And then you're going to choose JPEG. And I would probably say do like a medium or a low for your file size. If you do a high or maximum, it's going to be a pretty large file. So you can even do low, that's fine. I'm going to do medium. So that's the first one. Then you just hide that layer and go up from there. Save this one. And then just name this swatch 2. JPEG. Medium. Swatch 3. JPEG. Medium. And then last, well, somewhat last one. Save as attach 3. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Did I do 3? 1, 2, 3. It should be 4. And then last but not least, do the original. So just like kind of hide everything except for the original. And we're going to save this as 5. Okay. Once you get those all together, we're going to, and let me hide this here. Of course, I don't have it up. Hold on 1 second. We're going to see how it talks about the naming of the JPEGs that I just did, and then you're going to have the 5th one, which I added in here as the original address. Okay, so you should have a total of 5. If you need a reminder on how to create a contact sheet, I'm going to do a demo of this, but this is the link that is basically going to do all the steps that I'm going to show you here. So I'll show you in a second. You open this up here. So when you're ready to do it, just go up into Photoshop, go File, Automate, Contact Sheet 2. Oh, before I even do this, what you need to do is put all of your images in one folder, and I didn't do that. Give me 1 second here. And I'm just going to name this folder Contact Sheet. I'm going to put all of the JPEGs that I just saved that into that one folder. I know you can't see what I'm doing here, so give me 1 second. I just put them all in one folder. Okay, go File, Automate, Contact Sheet 2. And when this pops up, you want to choose Folder, and then go click on the actual word Choose. And I already put my contact sheet here with all of my JPEGs in there. So I'm going to choose that and click Open. So it links to that. And then you can keep, make sure it's in inches. But I'm going to keep mine at 8 by 10. Resolution is fine. We can kind of downsize that if we need to. Click OK. When you click OK, it's going to kind of populate your contact sheet with all of your addresses, including the original. So, and it's all basically saved. The little subtitles are saved too. And I don't think can you go in there? No, you can't edit them. So this is basically what you'll be turning in as well for your assignment 2. So you're going to save this. You're going to save it as a PSD file first, but you're not going to upload the PSD file. You're just going to save it. So we're going to go File, Save As, and we're going to name this and I think it's giving you a name in there, so I'm copying that. Desktop Photoshop, so you can go in and edit that if you need to. And then export it as a JPEG. You're gonna export drop down. All right, so basically you're gonna export as for the web, and you're gonna make sure that this isn't getting any larger than, what did it say, 1 megabyte? 1 megabyte. So right now, looks like it's 1.408 megabytes, so I want it to be smaller. So what I want to do is make this smaller, and I'm wondering which size. We could definitely size this down. Let's do Let's do 1200, and then you can see how that lowers. Let's see if I can go maybe 18. Let's see how that changes. Oh, so 12. That's about 50% of what it is. It's not changing my thing here. Let's see here, 1 second. Oh, okay. So once I click preview, it's giving me a GIF. Oh, this is a GIF. We want a JPEG. Sorry, guys. That's why I was seeing it weird. There we go. Okay, I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to go back and do a save export as. I should have switched that to JPEG up here, not GIF. Now I can change the quality up here, and it's actually okay as a JPEG high resolution. I don't even have to change anything. It's 959.1 kilobytes. So all I have to do is hit done. And then it should save on my desktop. Let me go check it here. So here's my contact sheet folder. Here's my PSD. And where's my JPEG that I saved it as? Must have put it in here. Where did it go? Let me go back. Unnamed folder. All right, so we're gonna just name this. Looks good. Desktop JPEG. I should save it on my desktop. Oh, there it is. I just saw it. Where did it go? There it is, right here. So this is what you'll be submitting, but you're going to keep the PSD file just as you would with the other Photoshop file with the layers on it. Go back to that. Okay. Any questions about that? That's one way to do it. All right. I'm going to go and actually do the same thing that I just did. I'm going to do color range, and I'm going to select my image here, just like I did to the original. Pull my things aside here. Okay, and this time, let's see here. I'm going to use a solid color adjustment layer. This you can also utilize if you know, like say for instance, you go back to your colors here in your that you saved to your libraries. You can actually highlight or put your cursor over top of this and see what the colors are showing here. Or you can double click on here and obviously get that color too. So here it's telling me my colors are FOCA9B, So I can choose that color in there based on that color code. I got that right, click OK. And then use my blending modes. Oops, it would have to be kind of like more of a color blending mode here. The only thing with this is, you know, obviously you're showing through the original color. So the blending modes are good as long as you're, you know, the original color is showing through. So let's do, let's see here. And you can do like a normal and then, you know, kind of dial down the opacity too, but it's not going to be as close to that color. So that's kind of why I was showing you that other option. So you're gonna get a little bit closer doing it the way that I showed you before. But that's a way you can do it. It's just, you know, obviously you're gonna have issues depending on, you know, these are all darker and this is screen. Color dodge, you could kind of go over some of these. I'm not sure the color kind of goes over that, but you know, you can definitely play around with that as well. I don't know if this is the color that you want particularly, but you know, that's another way to do it as well. And then also, let's see here, just layer colorized setting selected. Let me trash this here real quick. So you could do a new layer adjustment. And then choose with a colorize. Oops. What am I doing here? We're just going to click OK. And then colorize. So basically this would colorize your overall image based on like how you're going to, just kind of like I did before in the other demonstration, but it's going to colorize the whole selection. So the lights, the darks, everything that you have going on there. And then you can kind of adjust this based on the colors that you're trying to get to on this, you know, per the swatches. Okay. So I just checked on colorize at the bottom, and it's kind of basing it off of that hue selection that I made here. Hi, Dawn. Welcome. Any questions about that? So Dawn, I think you missed a lot. You can definitely review the, the recording for what you missed. But I just basically went over how to adjust the dress color for assignment 2 so that it matches the swatches that you chose for the dress that you chose. And the first step to that is importing the swatches, and I showed how to do that. And then I showed you the technique on how to make your selection and change the color within there. And I also showed how to save out onto a contact sheet, which you'll need to do once you got all of your layers in here. Any questions about that? It's pretty fun to play with for sure. This is probably the more complicated of the dresses because it has a lot of pattern to it. The other ones aren't as complicated. Let me open up the other ones here because they're a little bit more let me see here, hold on. They're a little bit more like flat in color. They don't really have pattern to them. So let me open the other two. And like I said, the other one in the address 2, for some reason, the link is not working. So you only have 3 to choose from. These are the other dresses. Pull this over here. Oh, sorry, guys. This is the one. Actually, this could be complicated because of the yellow part. Where's the other one here? Just 3, just 4. Yeah, okay, that's weird. Dress 4 should be this dress here. This is probably the easier of the ones. I don't know, for some reason this isn't, I'm having some Photoshop issues here. Hold on 1 second, guys. Sometimes when I do things a little bit too quick, as I have everything opened, I have these issues, but figure it out here. I'm just going to close out of Photoshop and open it back up. Oh, it says you want to force quit here. I do have something going on. Not wanting to quit. Okay. 1 minute here, guys. Sorry about that. You know how it goes with technology sometimes. It just doesn't work the way you want it to work. Especially when you're live. Okay. So I just wanted to pull up that other image so you guys can see. And for some reason it wasn't doing that for me before, but now it is because I restarted. This is the other image that would be, I think this would probably be the easiest of the 3. The other one is, I'm wondering, because it has 2 different parts to it, color-wise. It's like the flamingo dress here. I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. I would say just colorize the black part. You know, worry about selecting that part. So when you go up to your select color range, you're just basically selecting in here, holding the shift key and selecting the black parts. Now what's gonna be tricky with this is it's gonna select her hair. Okay, so you're gonna have to go in there because it's similar to hue. You're gonna have to go in, do a quick mask, and take your brush tool with the black on the foreground, and you're gonna wanna get rid of the selection of her hair, anything that can't, you know, you don't want to be changed. There's gonna have to be some serious, and I'm just kind of doing this very quickly, but there's gonna be some serious like techniques of selection going on here because her hair is definitely gonna be a challenge. So, you know, kind of play around with how do you want to do that. You don't have to do what I just did. You can, let me go back in my history here because I just did it very quickly using that brush tool. You can use your magic wand tools, quick selection tool. Oops. You can use your lasso tools. What's tough about this one is her hair is so close to color with the dress that, you know, you might have a difficult time selecting this out, but this is one way that you definitely can do it. Oops, I don't want to do that. I'm going to do edit fill, background color, foreground color. So I'm doing edit fill foreground color to mask that out so that when I hit quick mask, it's not selecting that part of her hair. And you can go and do this side, whatever you don't want affected. This is the tricky part. I mean, I can even go over here and select this part too, because I can see some of it's there too. All right, and then we had to double click on the background here, sorry. And then what we can do is do a hue saturation color adjustment layer. Oops. Hold on, something happened here, my selection. I hit something weird and then just went back. There we go. I have too much stuff going on here. Do this again. Why isn't this doing this? Okay. Hold on 1 second, guys. History. Yeah, for some reason this is not, hold on 1 second. Not working out here for me. Okay. Yeah, for some reason it's not doing this correctly like I originally planned. Actually, let me save this as a PSD file here. Push up just 3. Desktop. It's giving me a layer thumbnail, not what I want here. So let me go back and do this again. Okay. And like I said, I'll have to go back and change all of that. We don't want invert on, we're good. Selecting her hair, I was trying to deselect that. I'm just gonna do it real quick here so I can get this rolling here just to show you what the dress would look like. But yeah, you can definitely make those selections like I just showed you that are a little bit more accurate than what I'm gonna have going on here. Okay. Yeah, for some reason this isn't saving it out as the other one was. Very interesting. I didn't change anything in here, so I'm trying to figure out what the heck's going on. Yeah, it's actually not giving me what I want here. And I'm wondering, see how this icon's even different here? I'm doing all the other steps, so I don't know. It's really weird. Let me try it one more time. You guys, oh, there it goes. Maybe it is because I didn't unlock the layer at first, but it should do it now. I don't know. It's really weird. Okay, so let's try color range again. And let's just see here. There's shift select in there. Click OK. All right, let's try this. Nope, not doing it. Feather. Something's going on here. It's wacky, and I can't figure it out. But it seems like if I delete the layer mask, then it works. But for some reason, oh, there it goes. It goes on the other side. Maybe my selection's not. Let me do this. Let me try something here. Working through this. It's almost like it's selecting the other parts of this. Let me try invert. Just for the sake of trying this here. No, it still should be doing the black. So I'm not sure what's going on with this one. Let me go back to the other, maybe try this image here real quick. See if it's doing it with this one. Let me unlock this layer. It shouldn't be invert, but we'll just, holding down the shift key, I'm selecting that part, click OK. And then, you know, I can edit the mask out again if I don't want this part selected. I have a lot of stuff over here selected that I don't want. Same thing over here. Let's see what this looks like. Here are shoes I don't want selected. And then I can zoom in and actually adjust this too. Oops, don't want to do that. So I want to swap those out if I want this selected. So I'm just gonna do a little selection here. Flip it if I don't want the purse to be selected. Oh. Next, if I don't want this chain selected, I can either use my selection tools. I'm just going to quickly do this. This is probably not the best way to do it, but I'm just going to quickly do that. Oh, is this selected too? No. Okay. So I don't get her eyes in there. All right, let's see if this gives me the same problem here. Nope. It actually works, so. See how this part on her hand, or where her hand is, needs fixed too. But yeah, so this is working. It's just for some reason. this dress is not working. For me, at least. Yeah, you can use the pen tool, definitely. I mean, I can go in here and actually trace this out if I wanted to with either the pen tool or the lasso tool. Let me just do a real quick selection here. I mean, this is really bad selection. It's just real sloppy, but I just want to see what the heck's going on here. This is really weird. Hue, saturation, click OK. I guess it is changing. You just can't see it. And now that I think about it, if I pull the saturation up and the lightness up, you'll be able to see a little bit more. I think it's because of the dark part. So I think maybe in this instance, you guys, if you decide to do this actual dress, maybe instead of changing the black, change the yellow. I think maybe that's probably the best way to go. So what I would do is choose the plus sign and just go ahead and click on, shift click into that yellow part. Oops, reset it if you accidentally did it wrong. This is going to be the tough part. So you can either do it that way, or like you said, the pen tool or one of the magnetic lasso tools, and just choose the yellow part instead of the black part, because you're not going to be able to see much change in the black part. I kind of didn't think about that. The other dress that I showed you, you definitely could see the change, but this is going to be a little tricky because you're going to have to work around some of the black parts that are overlapping here. So what I would do is just, if you decide to do this one, go ahead and mark out these different areas here. Oops. History. Oops. Hold on one second. I keep pushing all these buttons because they're in my way. Okay. If you hold down the shift key, you can add more selections to this. So I'm holding down the shift key and I'm kind of adding this section over here. Hold the shift key down. Now I can select this over here. Oops, go up here. Yeah, I didn't think about the black dress part of it. But now I can say, yeah, that was kind of probably why I couldn't see the changes happening. Okay, and then you can click on the edit mask and actually do more changes to this, so it's a little bit more clear or tighter where it needs to be selected. I'm just going to do it very quickly and holding down that shift key so that I have multiple selections, and then hold down the Alt Option key and change the hue saturation, and you'll be able to see the changes here to just the yellow part. And I didn't select the lower yellow part, so that's something that you would definitely want to do. Change the saturation to be either darker or less saturated, more saturated later or darker here. But yeah, you can use the pen tool. You can use whatever selection tool you believe works the best for this situation. I was just showing you some options there. You know, obviously I need to go in here and fix things, but for this particular image, yeah, just stick with the yellow here. The other one, you know, you saw me do that one, and then dress 4, you can see changes to this one. So this one's okay. You just have to make sure you're dialing the color range appropriately, you know, depending upon your swatches that you choose. I could use the pen tool to, like, you know, like we just talked about, instead of the tools that I showed you. Oops, I'm doing. So I could go and zoom in. I would zoom in real tight on that. Take your pen tool. Where's my pen tool? And you can go, you know, make your selection depending on what you want to do, if you like to do that, or you can use your magnetic lasso tool. So these are just different options that, you know, make that selection. And once you're done, once you close it, and I'll show you here just real quick, that's when you do the Alt option. You can change the hue and saturation for that particular area. And I just did it very quickly just to show you. Okay. If you're going around like this purse, for example, on her shoulder, you would just make a selection of the main part. So I would do a selection just kind of all the way around here, up here, down here, and then close it, and then make another separate selection around the arm part. And that you will have to hold the shift key down before you do that so that you can have both selections selected. All right. Any questions about that or comments that you want to make about it? If you guys are having any issues, we're going to be meeting tomorrow at the same time. You can bring your work in. We'll definitely have some time to help you out if you need help with anything. Should be a fun exercise or project, I should say, if it's not frustrating at first. But you know, I think if you follow the steps that I kind of went over, I think you're going to be good to go. Okay, I did want to show before we end this here. You know, we talked about blending modes, and I wanted to kind of go over a few things here that I think are really cool, and for you guys to, this is separate of your assignment, so don't get confused. I just wanted to go over really quickly before we end the lecture for today. So let me get rid of all these. So the blending modes are a really interesting thing to kind of play around with. I'm going to pull up a texture that I just got off from pixabay.com. And it's just, oop, I'm making selections here. And I'm like, I don't even want to do that. So there we go. Okay. So I'm going to pull up my texture here, and then I'm going to also open up just a random picture that I found on Pixabay as well. And I'm going to place this picture, I'm going to copy this, I'm going to place it smaller here, scale, on the same, in the same document. But I'm going to put that below. Actually, I'm going to put the ship over top of this. I'm going to zoom in here. Okay, so right now I have the image of the ship in this really cool like ocean scene, and then I have my texture in the background. And what I wanted to go over is your blending modes. So you have your different blending modes over here, and let me go back here so we can talk about how these change your image. It's just fun to play around with, something that can definitely enhance your image if you know kind of the look and the feel that you want to create. And you can do blending modes, you know, on several different layers. It doesn't have to be necessarily just one, but let's talk about these. Okay, so in your blending options bar, you have these options here. Let me pull this in. So you have normal, and normal is just basically what it's set on in default, and that's just you know, the default mode. So it's showing you the image as is. You have dissolve, and I'm going to choose that here. And you may or may not see a change in this, but basically it dissolves, it edits or paints each pixel to make it the result color. However, the result color is a random placement of the pixels with the base color or the blend color depending on the opacity at any pixel location. So, you may see a little bit of dissolve going up above here, but not too much of a change. All right, you have darken, and darken, it looks, basically at the color information in each channel and selects the base or blend color, whichever is darker, as the result color. So it's kind of choosing that base color behind there as the color of the image. Pixels lighter than the blend mode are replaced, and pixels darker than the blend mode do not change. You have multiply, and multiply looks at the color information in each channel and multiplies the base color by the blend color. The result color is always a darker color. Multiplying any color with black produces black, and multiplying any color with white leaves the color unchanged. So when you're painting with a color other than black or white, successive strokes with a painting tool produce progressively darker colors. The effect is similar to drawing on the image with multiple marking pens. You have color burn. This one is a pretty harsh here. So it looks at the color information in each channel and darkens the base color to reflect the blend color by increasing the contrast between the two. So blending with white produces no charge. Now don't forget too, these color burns, you definitely, let me see here if I can swap these out. There we go. So I swapped these out. You can have the ability to give a certain opacity to it, so you don't want it to be 100%. You can dial that down. Let me go back to that same layer here. Okay, so we had color burn before, and say you don't want it to be that noticeable. You just want to dial it down just a little bit, but you want that texture to go through. I think I had these in the wrong order. I apologize. So that you can see that texture going through, you can dial that opacity down. Okay, linear burn, it looks at the color information in each channel, darkens the base color to reflect the blend color, increasing contrast between the two. So blending with white produces no change, but you can see it kind of got darker. If you want to dial that back and just get a little bit of that, you definitely can. That's kind of like the beauty behind it, playing around with that. Darker color, kind of like the same as darken. You know, the lighten color. So it looks at the color information in each channel and selects the base or blend color, whichever is lighter, as the result color. And pixels darker than the blend color are replaced, and pixels lighter than the blend color do not change. So you can kind of see the effects going on there. You have screen, and it looks at each channel's color information and multiplies the inverse of the blend and base colors. The result color is always a lighter color. Screening with black leaves the color unchanged. Screening with white produces white. The effect is similar to projecting multiple photographic slides on top of each other. Color dodge looks at the color information in each channel and brightens the base color to reflect the blend color by decreasing contrast between the two. Blending with black produces no change. You can dial the opacity down there if you want that look, but you don't want it to be that harsh. Again, you can play around with the opacity. You have linear dodge, which is the add option, looks at the color information in each channel and brightens the base color to reflect the blend color by increasing the brightness. Blending with black produces no change. And then you have, obviously, the lighter color. Oops, I just locked this. I don't want to lock this. You have overlay. Overlay multiplies or screens the colors depending on the base color. Patterns or colors overlay the existing pixels while preserving the highlights and shadows of the base color. The base color is not replaced, but mixed with the blend color to reflect the lightness or darkness of the original color. And again, you can dial this down. If you like that texture coming through from the background, you can dial that opacity down. You have your soft light, darkens or lightens the colors depending on the blend color. It's basically, this effect is similar to shining a diffuse spotlight on an image. You have a hard light, so multiplies or screens the colors depending on the blend color. The effect is similar to shining a harsh spotlight on the image, kind of the opposite of the soft color. You have vivid light, burns or dodges the colors by increasing or decreasing the contrast depending on the blend color. If the blend color light source is lighter than 50% gray, the image is lightened by decreasing the contrast. And if the blend color is darker than 50% gray, the image is darkened by increasing the contrast. You can kind of dial that down too if you just want that nice like texture look. You have linear light, burns or dodges the colors by decreasing or increasing the brightness depending on the blend color. You have a pin light, replaces the colors depending on the blend color. If the blend color light source is lighter than 50% gray, pixels darker than the blend color replaced, and pixels lighter than the blend color do not change. It's useful for adding special effects to an image. Give that nice texture look to it. The hard mix is basically, as what you see here, it adds the red, green, and blue channel values of the blend color and the RGB values of the base color. You have difference. It looks at the information in each channel and subtracts either the blend color from the base color or the base color from the blend color, depending on which has the greatest brightness value. You have exclusion, and exclusion creates an effect similar to but lower in contrast than the difference mode. It's blending with white inverts. Blending with white inverts the base color values. Blending with black produces no change. Kind of a different look there. Subtract, it looks at the color information in each channel and subtracts the blend color from the base color. Kind of a weird look to that. Divide, it looks at the color information in each channel and divides the blend color from the base color. A lot of kind of cool things going on there. You have the hue, and this creates a result color with the luminous and saturation of the base color and the hue of the blend color. I don't see too much of a change there, but you have saturation. Oh, that really makes it very saturated. Creates a result color with the luminance and the hue of the base color and the saturation of the blend color. So you can kind of pop up the saturation there if you want to have that effect to it. You have color, creates a result color with the luminance of the base color and the hue and saturation of the blend color. So this preserves the gray levels in the image and is useful for coloring monochromatic images and for tinting colored images. Luminosity is the last one here. Creates a result color with the hue and saturation of the base color and the luminance of the blend color. So this mode creates the inverse effect of color mode. So some really kind of cool things that you can play around with in here. Overlay is kind of interesting because you can kind of get that overlay, and then multiply is also a really cool one to play around with. Any questions about that? Let's see here. I just posted something to announcements, and then this is also in your required reading, but this kind of talks about everything I just went over. blending modes, and it also, so it lists these out, and then it also shows some examples of what this looks like if you have two kind of composited images together. Okay. All right, so that's where I'm gonna kind of wrap it up right now. Let me know if you guys have any questions or want to talk about anything, because we have about 10 more minutes here. And I'm just gonna kind of open it up to you guys. If you don't have any questions, we'll just kind of wrap it up. We'll meet tomorrow and go over some other extra stuff for your, for this project and for what you guys will be going over for the quiz. You guys have a quiz for assessment too. And, if you want to bring any work in, say you're working on this and you kind of stumbled on something or have a question, bring it in. If you want to, if you want me to take a double look at it, that's the time to do it too. We'll be meeting the same time tomorrow. All right, guys. Thanks for coming in, and we're going to wrap it up here. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. If not, I'll see you on the boards. All right, have a great day.